Good afternoon, everyone. We are a few minutes late. If you can hear me, just type a thumbs up or good afternoon, anything in the comment section. Any one of you, if I am audible, if you can hear my voice, just let me know in the comment section, everybody. Okay, Shreyans. So yes, audio, video all clear. Let's start with today's session. Welcome to Raj Malhotra's IAS Academy. This is weekly current affairs for geography, environment, science and technology, and I'm Surbhi Sardana. I will be taking it from now onwards every Wednesday. So let's see what are the topics for today. What topics are we covering for the last 1 week which have been in news? The last 1 week was mostly about space, about ISRO's missions, about the timelines of ISRO. So the first topic that we will be covering is upcoming ISRO missions. This is very important from your prelims point of view. And the second topic is participation of private sector in space. The second topic will be important for your mains point of view, from your mains point of view. And seize the mains question, seize the mains that is running on our website as well as on our YouTube channel. You can write the answer to the question that we are displaying here. The link to the website will be there in the description. It will take you to our website, which is rajisacademy.com. The topic related to this question will be discussed here in this lecture, and you can write your own answer, share that on our website and get it evaluated by our experts free of cost. Also, the discussion for the answer for this question, how do you have to approach this answer, will take place at 9 p.m. tomorrow on our YouTube channel. So the question for Seize the Mains is, ISRO has been one of the most successful organizations in the space sector, very true. However, the changing times demand the involvement of private sector in space. Quote. And you have to comment on this. The directive here is comment, and you have to answer in 150 words. After going through this video, after going through this lecture, write your own answer and share it on our website. So let's start with the first topic, which is about ISRO's upcoming missions. See, ड्यू टू द कोविड-19 पैंडमिक, 2 साल जो कोविड-19 पैंडमिक चला है उस वजह से इसरो के काफ़ी मिशंस डिले हो गए. द रिसोर्सेज ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, सरकार के बहुत सारे रिसोर्सेज और जगह डिवॉल्व थे. द रिसोर्सेज ऑफ गवर्नमेंट वर डिवॉल्व एट अदर प्लेसेज एंड इसरो कुड नॉट गेट एडिक्वेट फंडिंग ऑन टाइम. And secondly, the economy was suffering, so we could not launch a lot of space missions which were timelined for to be launched in 2020 or 2021. So as you know, there is a list of missions that ISRO has come up with, जो इस साल और अगले आने वाले 2-3 सालों में the missions which will be implemented in the coming 2 years or this year itself. So this was the Twitter update of an MP that here's 5 space science missions that Indian Space Agency ISRO will be performing by 2025. So till 2025, in the next 3 years, we have 5 missions lined up. What are these missions? Here is the list. The first one is Aditya L1. Aditya L1 is about sending a mission near to sun, studying the corona of sun. The second one is Chandrayaan 3. As you all know that Chandrayaan 2, the rover could not land. The Pragyan rover could not land on the moon, so Chandrayaan 3 has been planned. The next is ExpoSat, which is again it is an observatory. It is the second observatory India will be undertaking. ISRO will be launching after AstroSat, which was launched in 2015. The fourth one is space docking experiment, and the fifth one is the Gaganyaan mission. इन पांचों में से गगनयान मिशन इसी साल प्लान किया गया है. गगनयान मिशन हैज बीन प्लान्ड दिस ईयर इटसेल्फ. अ लॉट ऑफ एक्सपेरिमेंट्स आर बीइंग कैरिड आउट to make Gaganyaan mission successful. They are happening on a fortnightly basis. So what are the missions that ISRO launches? See, space sector is booming not only just in India but all around the world, and ISRO has proved itself to be one of the most efficient PSUs of the country. So ऐसे कौन से मिशंस हैं जो कि इसरो कैरी आउट करता है? व्हाट आर द मिशंस व्हिच आर कैरिड आउट बाय इसरो? सो द बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग टेल्स अस दैट इसरो हैज बीन कैरिंग आउट जस्ट 2 टाइप्स ऑफ मिशंस. 2 टाइप्स के मिशंस इसरो कैरी आउट करता है. द फर्स्ट वन इज नेशनल मिशंस एंड द सेकंड वन इज कमर्शियल मिशंस. So national missions are basically the ones which are meant to fulfill national obligations. हमें telecommunications की requirement है और we have requirements of telecom, we require weather forecasting, we require navigation, we require earth observation, things like that. So navigation, telecommunication, earth observation, strategic use for defense purposes, etc. So all this is covered under national missions. But there is another kind of missions which come under national missions. These are the space exploratory missions. For example, ISRO अगर moon पर अपना कोई mission भेजता है, if ISRO is sending a mission to moon, or secondly it is sending a mission to sun or Mars. So what is that for? हमें immediate benefit नहीं देता. It does not benefit us immediately as a nation, but it does benefit our understanding of the universe. Secondly, scientific community की बहुत help होती है, and on a global basis, the respect of ISRO, the global standing of ISRO raises. For example, when the Mars Orbiter mission was launched, it sent like very good observations, plus it was launched on a very economic basis. और countries, for example, NASA के mission से almost ज़्यादा नहीं तो ऑलमोस्ट 1/10 कॉस्ट पर इसरो ने MOM लॉन्च किया था, मास ऑर्बिटर मिशन, एंड दैट दीज मिशंस हेल्प ISRO prove itself to the global audience that yes, it is a contender in space industry. Secondly, that it is a reliable industry, it is a reliable PSU undertaking space exploration. So such missions are not just national in scope, but they also benefit the larger global scientific community. So this was about national missions. What is the other kind of missions that ISRO is launching? See, India has GSLV Mk3, we have the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, we have a Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, we have Mk3, which is for heavy payloads. So earlier when we did not have these satellite launching vehicles, जब हमारे पास ऐसे satellite launching vehicles नहीं थे, that time we were dependent on other countries like Russia to launch our satellites. हमें basic satellites के लिए भी और countries पर dependent होना पड़ता था. Thanks to the good leaders of Indian Space Research Organization that we now have our own satellite launch vehicles. हमारे पास अपने satellite launch vehicles हैं, thanks to the leadership that ISRO has had. But there are many small countries, ऐसी बहुत सारी छोटी countries. In fact, there are many big countries also who do not have their own satellite launch vehicles. So how do these countries get their satellites launched? Basic communication के लिए, basic mapping के लिए, अगर उनको और basic just weather forecasting satellites, अगर उन countries को इतनी basic activities के लिए ही अपनी satellites launch करनी है, then what do? They make their own satellites and they request countries like us or other bigger or other developed nations which have well established space research organizations with good satellite launch vehicles. They come to us, they approach us, and we launch their satellites on behalf of their country. So recently in June itself we launched some satellites for Singapore, and we've been doing it. We've launched satellites for United States of America also, because even if a country has some satellite launch vehicles, they do not want to launch they do not want to use it from time to time because it is an expensive process. Launching a satellite बहुत ही महंगा process होता है. So we've launched satellites for bigger countries also, and we do that on sometimes on a charity basis and sometimes on a paid basis for smaller nations as well. And this comes under commercial missions of ISRO, where India provides the launch service for private companies or foreign countries that pay to have their satellites launched from India. So is this part clear? The concept still here? Okay, we'll take the doubts later. But first of all, let us talk about the 5 missions which have been lined up. The first one is the Chandrayaan 3. Chandrayaan 3 is of very much importance to India because if you remember, अगर आपको याद है, Chandrayaan 2, when Chandrayaan 2 was launched, the orbiter, मून के आसपास, मून के ऑर्बिट में जो ऑर्बिटर ट्रैवल करना था, the orbiter was very successful to be launched in the orbit of moon, but the lander could not have a soft landing on the moon. So that was a disappointment that we received in Chandrayaan 2. But now they have planned a subsequent experiment and named it Chandrayaan 3. एक नया mission plan किया गया है Chandrayaan 3 के नाम से. It was announced back then when Chandrayaan 2 का landing possible नहीं हो पाया था. So it was planned back then itself that we will try soft landing again on the surface of moon, on towards the south pole of the moon, which is relatively unexplored. South pole of the moon जो है, वहाँ पर काफ़ी ऐसी mysteries of universe है और काफ़ी ऐसी mysteries अर्थ के अर्थ के बर्थ से रिलेटेड है, जो कि हमें पता लग सकती है, एंड दैट इज रिलेटिवली अनएक्सप्लोर्ड. सो दैट इज आवर मिशन टू लॉन्च अ लैंडर टू get into soft landing on the surface of moon on the towards the south pole. After that lander has landed, there will be a rover. It will be kind of a vehicle, एक robotic vehicle की तरह होगा, जो कि moon के surface पर travel करेगा and हमें observations और experiments करके हमारे like earth पे send करेगा. So what happens is, in Chandrayaan 2 we have placed the orbiter. We have successfully placed the orbiter around the moon. In the orbit of the moon, our orbiter is successfully working. So we do not have to place another orbiter. In case in prelims or any other papers you are asked that Chandrayaan 3 will be having an orbiter also. No, that is not true. We already have an orbiter running, and orbiter से जितनी radio wave जितनी भी communication possible है, it is sending us the observations. Now Chandrayaan 3 will only be having a lander and rover. No orbiter will be there. It aims for a soft landing on the moon that was planned for the second lunar mission or in the Chandrayaan 2 experiment, and it will use the existing orbiter only. No new orbiter will be there, because the orbiter that was there in Chandrayaan 2, it is said to have a mission life of around 7 years or more. And in fact, if we plan their life for 7 years, for example, Mars orbiter mission, it was planned for a very short lifetime, but it continued for a very long time. It was, हमें लगा था कि उसका life cycle कुछ महीने का होगा, but it sent us observations for years. So it is now in a place, it is very important for us कि हम Chandrayaan 3 जल्दी से जल्दी launch करें, because the expenses will be less. The orbiter is already there. We do not have to launch a new orbiter. We do not have to carry it out on a large scale, and we can focus on the landing capabilities of India. So the orbiter is already there. It will work till 7 years starting from 2019. So we have a very short time gap left. This is about your Chandrayaan 3, and this was amongst the list that Chandrayaan 3 will be launched very soon in the coming years. It will be launched in the first quarter of 2023. As you can see here, ISRO has given a timeline that next year के first quarter में, in the first 3 months of 2023, Chandrayaan 3 will be launched. Now, the next one on the list is Aditya L1. Aditya L1 is very important because बहुत सारी ऐसी countries हैं, there are so many countries which have sent their missions to the sun. Sun के exact surface पे नहीं, but sun के काफ़ी close missions भेजे जा चुके हैं, and studying the outer layer of sun, which is the sun's corona. A question was asked related to sun corona and solar flares in this year's UPSC prelims. So corona, or the outer layer of sun, is very important because that is where we get solar flares and hence solar storms from. So studying that is very important, because when it reaches Earth, it messes up with the magnetic field of our Earth, and secondly, what it does it messes up with our communication systems, whether it is satellites, it spoils the satellites, it destroys them. Our GPS navigation systems suffer because they all work on satellite. So Aditya L1 mission is there to do coronal and near UV studies. Now, why is it named Aditya L1? Aditya in Hindi or Sanskrit, Aditya stands for sun, and L1 here, L1 stands for Lagrangian Point 1. Now, what are Lagrangian points? Where is the mission where is the mission planned to be launched? That is important, and we'll see it. So the Aditya L1 mission will see an Indian spacecraft going up to like 1.5 million kilometers away to the L1 Lagrangian point between the sun and Earth. So कोई भी अगर, if there are any two big bodies in space, for example Earth and Sun, Earth or Moon, so between them there are 5 such points. There are 5 such points which have a balanced gravitational field, जहाँ पे attraction और repulsion दोनों the force due to bigger planet or bigger astrological body and the force due to smaller astrological body, it gets balanced at these points, and they are 5 in number. We call them the Lagrangian point. So these are the points. ये ऐसे points होते हैं जहाँ पर effectively कोई force act नहीं कर रही होती. अगर हम लोग कोई सैटेलाइट प्लेस कर देते हैं, वी प्लेस अ सैटेलाइट ऑन वन ऑफ द लैग्रेंजियन पॉइंट्स, देन देयर विल बी नो पुल और पुश ऑब्जर्व्ड बाय द सैटेलाइट कैन स्टे इन ऑर्बिट देयर. उस पॉइंट पर जाकर उसके ऊपर कोई भी पुश और पुल एक्ट नहीं कर रहा होता, एंड द सैटेलाइट कैन पीसफुली रेस्ट देयर, इट कैन बी देयर इन द ऑर्बिट, एंड इफ इट कैन बी प्लेस देयर, अगर हम एक सैटेलाइट को उस प्लेस पर भेज सकते हैं, विच इज L1 पॉइंट, विल बी डिस्कसिंग इन अ वाइल, then it will be very easy for us to observe the sun. Yes, the gravity of both the astrological bodies, it balances there. So the force due to gravity, the gravitational force that is acting due to both the bodies, that gets balanced. So there are 5 Lagrangian points between any two celestial bodies where the gravitational pull or of both the bodies on the satellite is equal to the force required to keep the satellite in orbit. So fuel is not required to keep that satellite in orbit. आपको किसी force के against act नहीं करना पड़ता क्योंकि gravitational pull balance हो जाता है. So it can act as a parking spot, and आपको fuel भी नहीं देना पड़ता उस satellite के लिए. It can act as a parking spot and you don't have to supply fuel. Now look at this diagram. Let me zoom it. So this is your sun and this is your earth. So earth has an elliptical orbit around the sun, and sun is at one of the focal points. Just remember that sun is at one of the focal points. So there is a point between earth and sun. earth and sun के बीच में एक point है जिसको हम L1 बोलते हैं. It is towards the earth. We are planning to launch a spacecraft or Aditya L1 mission here at L1. at Lagrangian point 1, यहाँ पे दोनों bodies का gravitational pull balance हो जाएगा. Since sun is bigger, sun will attract this satellite, or the sun will attract whatever is placed here with a more force, and earth will attract with a lesser force as compared to sun. Earth कम जोर लगाएगी, sun ज़्यादा जोर लगाएगा. So this Lagrangian point is closer to earth as compared to sun. So this is of very much use in space explorations. It has been used many a times by other countries. Now we are using it for sending a mission to study sun. So Aditya mission will go at L1 here. Your Lagrangian point 2, let's study about the other 4 Lagrangian points also in case a question is asked. Lagrangian point 2 is behind the earth. It crosses the orbit of the moon also. It is behind the earth. So if you place something here, कोई भी चीज अगर Lagrangian point 2 पर placed है, if something is placed at Lagrangian point 2, it becomes very easy to observe deep space. Beyond Earth, you have Mars, Jupiter, and other planets, and you have deep space extending to the Kuiper belt and other parts of Milky Way. तो यहाँ पर इसको कोई भी obstruction नहीं है. There is no obstruction to something that is placed here, and it can observe the deep space from here. So L1 is used. L1 will be used to study the sun. ये eclipses भी इधर नहीं होते हैं because it is far away. So eclipses से ये जो जगह है ये eclipses से बची रहती है. As you can see, even if the moon is in orbit, your eclipses happen because moon comes in between. So moon का जो orbit है उससे भी पीछे है ये. In case a question is asked, so you have to see that the moon has this orbit here, but L1 is here towards the sun. So eclipses से इसको फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. It will not get affected due to any kind of eclipses. So we can take observations all the time round the year. The third Lagrangian point is beyond the sun. The usage of third Lagrangian point is not very clear to the scientific community. We are still researching on that. And there are 2 other Lagrangian points, L4 and L5. L4 is here. Here is your earth, this is your sun, and this is your moon. L4 is here and L5 is on the downward side on this diagram. So here what you have is again the gravitational pull is balanced. इधर कुछ asteroids आ जाते हैं because this orbit at L4 and L5 it is very much stable. It is at 60 degree to the plane. So this orbit is very much stable. So जो asteroids आपके Mars और Jupiter के बीच में है, the asteroids between Mars and Jupiter, sometimes they come here because they find more stability at Lagrangian point 5 and Lagrangian point 4, and they join Earth in its orbit, and these are known as Trojan asteroids. So this is something, this is the thing that you have to remember, that points L4 and L5 are stable and lie along Earth's orbit at 60 degree ahead of and behind Earth. So if they are at L4, they'll be ahead of Earth in its orbit. If they are at L5, so they are behind. So since this orbit is stable, this is orbit of Earth around the Sun. They join the orbit of the Earth and they are known as Trojan asteroids. And these join the Earth because of its stability. So this was about the Lagrangian points. I hope that you're clear about why we are launching Aditya mission at the Lagrangian point 1 only and not at Lagrangian point 4, 5, 3 or 2. So yes. So this is your second mission Aditya L1, which has been planned to study coronal and ultraviolet rays that are emitted from the sun. They have to be studied. The next one is the XPOSAT. XPOSAT, it is basically India की second astronomical observatory है. Let's see when it has to be launched. So your Chandrayaan has been planned for Q1 of 2023. Aditya L1 again has been planned around for Q1 of 2023. अगले साल के first 3 months में it will be launched. Chandrayaan 3 and Aditya L1. XPOSAT has been planned in Q2 of 2023, and this time ISRO will make sure that it successfully launches all the experiments because these missions have been delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And after that, we'll be studying the space jockeying experiment, which is scheduled for 2024, and Gaganyaan, which is scheduled this year only. Later, like around September or later, it will be launched. So let's move on to XPOSAT. What is it? So India's second astronomical observatory. See if you can place a telescope in space. आप एक observatory space में लगा सकते हैं तो उस पर rays थोड़ी आसानी से पड़ेंगी. It would be easier to catch the rays if some observatory or some telescope is placed in the space itself. So India launched its first observatory in 2015. It was called the AstroSat. Now XPOSAT is the second observatory that India is planning to launch. It will be there in the low Earth orbit. Your low Earth orbit around 300 to 4 kilometer above surface of Earth होगा. So ज़्यादा बाहर नहीं जा रहे atmosphere से. It is very near. It will be very near. What it will do is it will help in studying पोलराइजेशन ऑफ कॉस्मिक एक्सरेज जो हमें यूनिवर्स की दूसरी बॉडी से वेदर दे आर न्यूट्रॉन स्टार सुपरनोवा उनसे जो हमें रेज मिलती हैं celestial bodies से या celestial phenomena से whatever rays we are getting those will be captured and those rays will be studied and उनका जो polarization structure है that will be sent to the laboratories on ground. So it will help in studying polarization of cosmic X-rays. Basically polarization ऐसा एक प्रोसेस होता है पोलराइजेशन इन फिजिक्स इफ आई टॉक अबाउट इट इज़ अ प्रोसेस थ्रू विच अगर आपको पता लग जाता है हाउ द रेज आर पोलराइज्ड उनकी डायरेक्शन क्या है पोलराइजेशन की और व्हाट इज द एंगल ऑफ दैट रेज विच आर पोलराइज्ड सो यू कैन गेट द इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट सोर्स ऑफ दोज रेज इफ यू नो अबाउट द पोलराइजेशन सो दिस इज द aim of XPOSAT. It aims to study the polarization of cosmic X-rays. X-rays की frequency होती है. All rays have a frequency on the electromagnetic spectrum. Aditya L1 is there to study the UV rays from sun and corona. This XPOSAT is about studying cosmic X-rays. उनकी polarization को study करेगा and it will be launched on a small satellite launch vehicle. Not on a very big launch vehicle, but a small satellite launch vehicle. The telescope which will be placed in the orbit, it is being developed by ISRO and Raman Research Institute. And studying how radiation is polarized gives away the nature of its source, including the strength and distribution of its magnetic field. तो जहाँ से भी हमें वो X-rays मिल रही हैं from whichever source, whether it is a quasar, whether it is a black hole, pulsar, X-ray binary, गैलेक्टिक न्यूक्लियर और सुपरनोवा एंड ब्लैक होल्स को स्टडी करना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है बिकॉज दे टेल अस वेदर समथिंग न्यू इज जनरेटेड और नॉट और इफ समथिंग हैज बीन डिस्ट्रॉयड इन द यूनिवर्स तो अगर उनकी रेज हम लोग डिटेक्ट कर पाते हैं देन नथिंग बेटर देन अस it will enhance our scientific capabilities, our research capabilities and our understanding of the universe. So as I told you that the observatory will be placed in a लो अर्थ ऑर्बिट ऑफ 500 to 700 किलोमीटर, से ज्यादा ऊपर नहीं जा रहे हैं. Again, the next one is Gaganyaan. I think Gaganyaan has been in news for the past so many years that it must be very simple to understand. Basically, Gaganyaan is something that takes you to the sky. So it's something that takes human beings to the sky is Gaganyaan. It is India's first human space flight program. Pehli baar India, it is for the first time that ISRO is planning to send human beings into space. What are the details of Gaganyaan? Let's see. So if India is successful to send and to bring back human beings into space, again, then it will become the fourth country to do that. In fact, this ये जो हम space में send कर रहे हैं, we are not sending them to moon, unlike USA or other countries. We are sending them to low Earth orbit only, because this is the first human space flight mission that we are carrying out. So we are sending them to like 300 to 400 kilometer above. XPOSat से भी low level के orbit में हम भेज रहे हैं. We are sending them at a lower orbit than XPOSat, and we will check that how our we'll check our capabilities to send human beings into space, and in the subsequent years we'll send human beings deep into space. So the program will make India the fourth nation of the world to launch a human space flight mission. It is being operated by a human space flight center, and the spacecraft will be placed in a low Earth orbit of 300 to 400 kilometer. So just look at this diagram. How is it planned to function? So this is your Sriharikota, right? This is the map of India, and towards the right side near Andhra you have Sriharikota here. From here the launch will take place, and let's see where the launch happens. GSLV Mk3 will be used to lift off the rocket from Sriharikota, and it will take 16 minutes to reach the low Earth orbit. See, it's going up. Now this is the orbit module. Here when it reaches some stability, or then it will stay for like 5 to 7 days. This particular experiment, this will be carried out for like 5 to 7 days. वो लोग space में रहेंगे. People can stay into space for 5 to 7 days in the low Earth orbit. So it is not very far from the Earth. It is directly above the Earth's atmosphere. Then reorientation will happen after these 5 to 7 days, and this separation of crew and service modules will happen. जो service module था वो अलग हो जाएगा, and जिस आपके module में crew members हैं, those 3 members, it will get separated, and aerobraking will happen, because here gravity will be acting and atmosphere is there. If you cross this line, you have atmosphere, you have the ionosphere, then aerobraking has to happen. You have to stop the pull of Earth's surface or the gravity, so that there is not a collision with the earth. जैसे हमारे चंद्रयान 2 के केस में हुआ था, soft landing could not happen. So aerobraking systems fail हो जाते. So this aerobraking is of very high quality. Aerobraking will happen, and when the speed of this crew module is stable, then through parachute deployment these 3 members will come down and splash down at Arabian Sea off the coast of Gujarat. This will happen. So your launching was from Sriharikota, but your coming back of the crew will be somewhere around the coast of Gujarat. So this is your Gaganyaan mission. Now I'll be taking doubts before moving on to the space docking experiment, because this is again one of the most important experiments. Any doubts till here before we move on to the space docking experiment, SpaceX? खुशी, गगनयान कैन नॉट बी यूज फॉर टूरिज्म इन फ्यूचर, बट जो हमें रिजल्ट्स मिलेंगे गगनयान से, वील सी दैट हाउ मच फार कैन बी सेंड द पीपल इन स्पेस. सो दैट information can be used in future, because in the low earth orbit we are sending them right now. We want to send them like away also. So yes, in the coming years, if ISRO can develop good capabilities of sending humans in space and bringing them safely back, sending is one side, bringing them safely back is another side, and bringing them safely back is very important because as you saw here, as this crew module, as it enters the atmosphere, space may you do not have that much of collision or friction, but as in when it enters the atmosphere, ions are there, there is lot of gravity acting, बहुत सारी friction होती है, there is a lot of force and friction acting, and the surface of the crew module जिस spacecraft में वो होते हैं, it has a high tendency to melt down, to develop cracks, and then it blasts off, and hence the crew cannot be landed safely, they cannot be brought back safely. I think this was the case in case of when Dr. Kalpana Chawla, she passed away. So this was the case. So aerobraking is something that we are working on. We need to see that how efficiently we can do it, and after that parachute deployment is much simpler. So after the learnings of this experiment, for short, Gaganyaan and technologies like that can be used for tourism. Any other doubts, or should we move to the space jockeying experiment, SpaceX? Anyone? Vishal, the moon's gravity does not really affect L1 or Lagrangian point 1. Lagrangian point 1 is the Lagrangian point because all the bodies which are exerting gravitational force, those gravitational forces have been balanced. So moon is otherwise also very small in size as compared to Earth. So when there is gravitation, it might act, but that will be in very small amount. So because the mass of moon is very less as compared to Earth and Sun. Okay, so now we'll move on to the space docking experiment. So this is a news from 2020, but again this SpaceX or space docking experiment has been in news. What the chief of ISRO said was that ISRO to split up and unite a satellite in space this year. So they say that we will launch 2 satellites. हम 2 satellites भेजेंगे, and they say that from the surface of the Earth we'll send 2 satellites which will be in like very close orbits, and they will be sent as separate satellites, but after some time what we want to do is we want to unite these 2 satellites, we want to make them one. So what is the purpose of this space jockeying or attaching 2 satellites in space? So the first thing is that space jockeying is about sending 2 man-made objects. 2 आप ऐसे objects भेजिए जो कि इंसान ने बनाए हैं, human made objects आप 2 space में भेजिए, and space में जाकर उन दोनों को combine कर दीजिए, combining those 2 objects in the space. What is the use of sending them separately? Why can't you send them at once? इकट्ठे जोड़कर क्यों नहीं भेज सकते? The first thing to see here is what, for example, this satellite was there. Let me mark this in blue. This was satellite 1. This was already in the orbit. अब इस satellite का fuel खत्म हो जाता है. The fuel of this satellite ends, or if it is a spacecraft, whatever it is. So the fuel of this satellite or spacecraft has ended. Now what you will do? This satellite becomes useless for our country. So a lot of expenses have to be carried out. बहुत खर्चा होगा एक similar satellite launch करने में. For example, if it was aiding your communication, your navigation के लिए aid कर रहा था, if it was aiding any of the good features that you need for your nation, then a new satellite has to be sent or a new spacecraft has to be sent. So this satellite becomes dysfunctional. It is of no use to us. But if space docking can be carried out, then what you can do is you can send this second thing, and this can give fuel to it, because according to space docking, what happens? There is this one thing, there is satellite 1 or spacecraft 1, and this is 2. For example, this has fuel, this one has fuel, and this one is empty on fuel. So if space docking can be carried out, this second part can give fuel to, it can inject fuel in the first one. So just imagine, अगर हम ये joining कर पाते, joining of 2 space objects, 2 objects in space which have been sent from the Earth itself, that can be carried out, then your satellites or your spacecrafts can be refueled. इफ यू वांट टू अटैच समथिंग न्यू, अगर आपने किसी स्पेसक्राफ्ट में कोई नया पार्ट इंजेक्ट करना है और अटैच करना है, इफ यू वांट टू attach something new to an old spacecraft. For example, spacecraft का kitchen area fail हो गया है. If the kitchen area of spacecraft, that old spacecraft has failed, then what you can do is plan a new kitchen area on the second spacecraft, send it above, and that can join the first spacecraft. So the astronomers sitting there will have a new kitchen, and the other part can be sent into the deep space or whatever. It can be just discarded. So you do not have to send new things again and again if this space docking is successful. Now, what is the problem with space docking? Space docking has problems because this first satellite, this was in orbit. This second satellite that is also in orbit. इनकी स्पीड बहुत ज़्यादा होती है. दे आर मूविंग एट वेरी हाई स्पीड. इफ दे आर मूविंग इन द ऑर्बिट ऑफ अर्थ मूव्स एट लाइक 1000 किलोमीटर पर सेकेंड. इतनी स्पीड होती है अर्थ की ऑफ रोटेशन एंड रेवोल्यूशन. सो सैटेलाइट्स आर ऑल्सो मूविंग एट अ वेरी हाई स्पीड. If something A, satellite 1 is moving at a high speed, satellite 2 is also moving at a high speed, how will you join them? They will just collide, accident हो जाएगा और दोनों बर्बाद हो जाएंगी. Both will collide and get destroyed. So how will you join them? This is the main issue, that you have to control the speeds of both the parts that you are launching and bring them to such a slow point that they actually join together and they are of use to us. They are of use to ISRO and our nation in general. So this is your docking about. I'll explain this again once in a while. So space docking is the mechanism in which a human-made object in space joins with another human-made object. It is very hard technology because where two space objects moving in very high velocity have to be brought close and then joined, and they have to be joined extremely precisely. So let's see what has been carried out. So just look at this picture if it is visible. Yes, this is your part 1. This is your part 1 and this is your second part 2. These both can be satellites. These both can be spacecrafts, anything. This is space docking, joining of two objects in space. And here this is at the angular position. And this is at the perpendicular angle hai, perpendicular vision hai. So just look at it closely. This is your space docking. Now we'll see what China actually achieved by space docking experiments. China ने बहुत successfully space docking carry out किया है, and just by looking at the benefits, that how much money it has saved for China, कितने पैसे की उन्होंने बचत की है Chinese government ने, and how it has helped astronomers in space. So this will be of very big use to India. For example, this is the joining point. The astronomers were operating here. ये कोई इनका स्पेस स्टेशन था. दिस वाज द स्पेस स्टेशन तियानगोंग. तियानगोंग स्पेस लैब थी चाइना की. दिस वाज द स्पेस लैब ऑफ चाइना. So the space lab was confined to this part only. For example, as I told you that if you want a new kitchen area for your space station, for example, we have the International Space Station. India is also planning its own space station. So space station is basically a resting place for the astronomers, for astronauts. So if you want a new kitchen area, if you want a new type of lab, अगर उनको कुछ नए chemicals की requirement है research के लिए, so what you will do? Who will you send in space? They will have to come out, and it, you know, how will they come out of that? If these two areas can be joined and astronomers can go from here to here, travel from here to here, and this is your space, this dark area is your space, then these problems can be solved, right? And Tiangong 1 में China ने ये सब carry out किया है, and it has benefited them immensely. And India is planning to launch its own space station. International Space Station जो है already low Earth orbit में, that is working. What it serves as is, whenever we send astronomers in space, it is a resting place for them. It is like it is a coordinated effort of most of the countries. So जब भी astronomers ऊपर space में जाते हैं, they rest at the International Space Station. Whatever medicines, food or research material is available, they take rest there, and after that they move on to conducting their researches. Now they say that International Space Station का lifetime है वो खत्म हो रहा है. The lifetime of International Space Station is actually decreasing. So now every country is planning to launch its own space station. India is also planning to launch its own space station. So on the space station, you need to have a lab area, you need to have a kitchen area, you need to have a sleeping area. There are so many areas, and launching the entire space station at once, it is very hard. Launching such a heavy thing at once, it is so hard. But if this space docking, if joining of two parts in the space station can happen, then nothing better than that. हम parts में उस चीज़ को launch कर सकते हैं, हम parts में वो चीज़ को space में भेज सकते हैं, and all these parts can be joined together by, you know, taking the help of the gravitational force or the orbital motion of these satellites or parts of space station, and then we can launch a bigger space station in the coming years. So that's why space docking experiment is important. And when is India planning to launch its first space docking experiment? Let's see here. So the space docking experiment is planned for the third quarter of 2024. This year, next year, no. 2024 के quarter 3 में, that is when they have planned, they will be launching 2 satellites. So they say that 2 satellites will be launched. One of them will be the chaser and the other will be target. What do you mean by chaser and target? For example, this is your Earth. This is the satellite. This will be your target. इस सैटेलाइट में जाकर जोड़ना है दूसरी सैटेलाइट को. So this will be the target satellite because second satellite has to be joined in this. And the second satellite which will be sent and joined is chaser, because it will chase the first target. It will chase the target. So this is planned in 2024. And as far as uses of docking experiment are concerned, these are the uses: for astronauts to go into space and get into the space station, to build large structures in space, and the third one is to refuel satellites and increase their operational life. So is this point clear? Are these all 5 experiments clear? That all these 5 missions which ISRO is planning, and then we'll move that why are we looking for private investment in space. Yes, Khushi, chaser and target both will be expensive, but इनका weight कम होगा. The weight of these satellites will be lesser as compared to the joint satellites that we are sending. Any doubts? We are taking doubts right now before moving on to the next topic. Any doubts? Just let me know. Yes, docking can take place with ISS also, but International Space Station is already there. We, you know, for example, if docking has to be carried out, for example, docking here, so both sides need to be compatible with each other. So, जो आप पहला target भेज रहे हैं, the target that you are sending, that has to be made in such a way that when few months later or an year later or so, when the chaser is sent, the chaser satellite is sent, it should fit in. So for the already existing satellites or space stations, it is, you know, we are not very sure whether they'll fit in or not, but for the future experiments that we planned, this fit in technology will be carried out. Okay, Vishal? Any other doubts? Okay. So the next point is, and which is your question for Seize the Mains also, that why ISRO is so successful. ISRO is one of the most successful PSUs of not just India but of the entire world. ISRO की जो experiments है बहुत सस्ते में और बहुत अच्छे experiments होते हैं. Whatever missions ISRO has launched, they are very, you know, economical as compared to what other countries like USA or Europe have launched. So why is the government keen on having private investment in space? So this is the issue, and it was there in yesterday's Hindu newspaper that Why is India's space industry looking for private sector investment? As I taught you, as we told you, that there are 5 very good experiments and very tough experiments that ISRO is coming up with, 5 very important missions. Then why do we need to bring private sector in space? Let's see. So the first thing you need to think of is Mr. Elon Musk and SpaceX. SpaceX के जो experiments है, for example, they are planning to launch like 10,000 satellites in the low Earth orbit. They have experiments lined up, after which you will not need to pay like your telecom operator anything, क्योंकि satellites ही इतनी ज़्यादा चली जाएंगी that internet facilities will be available all around the world. So what will happen? Monopolization. अगर और countries की जो space agencies है, if the space agencies of other nations are able to move or run farther than ISRO or our space agencies, then in the future it is possible कि space को वो acquire कर सकते हैं और monopolization of space can happen, and we'll have to pay them very highly for the services that we want, for any kind of services that we want. So it is high time that India should not only rely on ISRO for the services it is providing, but it should also involve the private sector. Let's look at the statistics. So as per Space Tech Analytics, India is the 6th largest private player industry internationally. Yes, we are the 6th largest private player industry in the space sector, but let's see. 3.6% जो world की space technology industries हैं, they are based in India. 3.6% of the entire world, while 56.4%, more than half of the percentage of the entire world of space technology industries are based in the United States of America. So that is a clear monopoly that USA is heading towards, and to counter that, we need to have our own space industry. We have a target also. हमारा एक target है, that is a very like $50 billion की private space industry हमने create करनी है by 2024. So what are the requirements apart from the economic factors? First of all, there is huge untapped potential. इस area में potential बहुत ज़्यादा है. There are many startups which want to work in this area. There are many young minds who want to have like funding or support from the government or just freedom from the government side. There are so many CubeSats or mini satellites which ISRO launches for many student groups of IITs, ISROs and things like that, and institutes like that. So these people, they want their own startups to have like their innovation see some results. So if the government gives them freedom and support and ISRO gives the green flag, then this potential can be tapped. Presence of budding entrepreneurs is there. We have like budding entrepreneurs which are keen to work in this industry. So this is your point. Then you have huge untapped potential. It is good for the economy. If innovation is carried out by the private sector, then it will add to our GDP, it will boost our economy. So thirdly, it is at low cost. If it can be in collaboration with ISRO के experiments or missions are already available at a very economic price. So if these can be leveraged to the private sector, if these missions can be sold or the services out of these missions can be sold, so we can have a very good economic benefit. The fifth one is there is a greater pool of resources. We have the human resources, we have labor, we have capital. Private sector participation will open a new pool of resources and talent, especially, see, as we saw in the case of Chandrayaan II, there was so much money involved, but the soft landing failed on the surface of moon. Had this mission been in partnership with private sector, that time the government's money could have been saved. सरकार का बहुत पैसा बच सकता था अगर कोई भी मिशन प्राइवेट सेक्टर के साथ पार्टनरशिप में लॉन्च किया जाए, एंड रिस्क ऑल्सो कैन बी रिड्यूस्ड. सो risk sharing happens, low cost happens, it is good for the economy. We have the potential, we have the human resource, we have entrepreneurs who want to work in this sector. That's why it is very important for India, especially to compete at the global level with agencies like SpaceX, which have launch this reusable vehicle technology or reusable technology in space. This is very important. It is the need of the hour for our country. So now you have to answer this. Especially there are two bodies affiliated to the Indian government. The first one is In Space, which is about promoting, authorizing and licensing private players to carry out space activities. This gives the authorization and licenses to private players who want to carry out space activities. The next one is न्यू स्पेस इंडिया लिमिटेड. इसरो की जो भी established missions हैं, उनकी जो भी services हैं, उनको sell off करते हैं, उनको commercialize करते हैं. So it is mandated to transfer the mature technologies developed by ISRO to Indian industries. So that's how this is about your current affairs session for today. Make sure that you answered the question for Seize the Mains, and the discussion will be taken by me at 9 p.m. tomorrow, entirely free on our YouTube channel. Till that time, you have more than 24 hours to answer this question. Go to our website rajisacademy.com, or the link in the description will take you there to our website, and answer the previous questions also. Our team is like very dedicated to give you their valuable feedback. I'll see you another Wednesday, and if there are any doubts, just let me know. Yes, Vishal, absolutely. So any doubts with regards to today's lecture? Or we'll call it a day. We'll end the session and then we'll carry on. All right. Okay, thanks to all of you. Thanks for being a wonderful audience, and wish you all the best.